Hey everyone, this is Smythe. We'll be using the new version of Studio 1.5 to learn how to create a beat. In this video, we're going to start with a basic drum pattern. All right. So I've opened a blank session here in Studio 1.5, and I want you guys to click on instruments. All right. And then I want you to go to vendor. All right. So what this is doing is separating all of our instruments, our VSTs, by brand. All right. So mine probably looks a little different from yours. I have some by Apple, Isotope, Moog, but what we're looking for is PreSonus. All right. So we are going to hit that drop down arrow. And so for this video, we're going to be using Impact. All right. Impact is a sampler that looks like a 16 pad drum machine. All right. You guys can take a look at the interface right here. Pretty cool, pretty intuitive. We're going to be using this to create our drum programming. Let's get started. So I've already downloaded some drum sounds from Splice that I really like. All right, I've got a kick drum and snare from the New School kit by Soul Surplus. It's a sample pack. It has some, melodic loops in it, and it comes with some pretty cool electronic drum sounds. Cool. So in order to get the sounds I want into Impact, I'm going to open up the Splice app and I'm going to drag my samples first into Studio One. I'm going to start with this kick. So I'm going to drag this into Studio One. Then I'm going to take this kick. I'm going to place it on the C1 so it's on the first pad. There we go. When you see C1, C#1, D1, D#1, and so on these pads, what that means is that that particular key on the keyboard or the piano roll, which I'll show you later, is going to trigger that sound. So if you have a drum pad, basically your first bank and the pad, obviously we can see here it's the furthest south and all the way to the left is going to trigger that. All right, so next let's drag in our snare. We also have a snare from the New School pack, snare trap compressed. I'm going to drag that in. Okay, back in Studio One, I'm going to drag from Studio One that snare right on to C#1. Now you can put it anywhere you want. Sometimes, triggering it from a different key might be more comfortable. It might give you a better handle or, better dexterity on how you play your drums. I generally just like to do them all in order like that. So I have my kick, my snare. So what I want to do, I want to take a hi-hat from Murder Beats Quarantine kit. It's this gelato hat. I'm going to drag this in. I'm going to drag that onto D1. So we have our full kit here. All right, cool. So now that we've got all our sounds loaded in, we're going to close out of Impact. Okay. All right. So now my tempo is at 90. I think I want it to be, let's just say 85. Now we see this metronome emblem here at the bottom that I'm clicking on. That turns the metronome on and off. Okay. Next to it, this wrench, you can change your metronome settings. So I'm going to put a pre-count on. All right. And we're going to hit the click and play for this metronome. So basically what that means is when you hit play, you'll hear the metronome. So listen. Cool. So if you don't have a drum machine or a MIDI controller, you can always pencil in your beats using the piano roll. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So we're going to double click right here, just in this open space right next to where it says impact. That's going to create a MIDI region. And we're going to drag this MIDI region out to 4 bars, because that's how long we want our loop to be. So right here where it says length, it should say 4.000000. All right, now we're going to double click in here, and that's going to open the piano roll. So because of the way that the one shots are named, our kick, snare, and hi-hat, it's kind of hard to tell. So you can always just click right here. We hear that's our kick drum, our snare, and our hat. So now to pencil this in, we just hit Command. You'll see a little pencil come up. And if you want to erase, you see that eraser icon is right there. So all I'm doing is holding Command and just pressing the mouse, making sure that little pencil icon comes up there. So I'm going to do that every 2 beats. So it'll be on the 1, then the 3, then in the second bar it's going to be on the 1 and the 3, and so on. So if we were to count out the pattern of the kick, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'll show you here. So take a listen. Cool. So now we're going to put our snare drum on the 2 and the 4 of each measure. Now let's hear what that sounds like. Now here comes the slightly more tedious work. We're going to put our hi-hats in 1/8 notes. So in other words, right now we have our kick and snare. When you hear it, they're quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The hi-hats, they're going to go or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So if you were to count out how many hi-hats there would be in one of the measures, there would be 8 of them. Therefore, they're 8 notes. And that's technically not a hard and fast rule. What it really means is that evenly spaced, you could divide the measure up into 8. That's what an 1/8 note is. It's literally 1/8 of that note. Okay, so let's go ahead and place these in here. So we're going to place that first hi-hat, second one, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. Now let's just hear that first measure. All right. So let's go ahead and place the rest in here. Replace that one. Okay, so that's just a quick demonstration of how to pencil in beats, but today we're going to actually program it using a MIDI controller. All right, so let's wipe this out and I'll show you how to do it the other way. All right, so one more thing before we actually start programming our drums. All right, we want to make this a 4-bar loop. Okay, so at the top of this screen here, right above that 1, we're going to drag this out. We're going to click and drag out to 5. Okay, so it's going to make it a 4-bar loop, but the loop mechanism doesn't actually turn on until you hit backslash right next to the shift button on your keyboard. All right, so we've got our loop on, we've got our metronome. Okay, so now all that's left is to program a simple pattern. I think I'm going to go with something simple. Now there's a little bit of latency here because of some software I'm using to record this. All right, so that'll teach us a little bit about the quantize button, but we'll get there when we get there. So for now, let's program this kick pattern. All right, and notice when I hit the record button, there is a count off that is inside of the circle, that symbol for the record button. It's a pretty cool feature that I like. All right. I know what you're thinking. That was really off. All right, so we're going to quantize this. So quantization is a process of taking all of your beats and aligning them perfectly to the grid. All right, so all your notes that are on beat 1, they're right on beat 1. All of your notes on beat 2, right on beat 2. So right here, we went for a pattern that puts the kick on beat 1 and 3. All right, so we're going to double click on what we just recorded here. All right, and that'll take us to this screen that shows us the piano roll, right? It shows us all of the kick drums that we played, and it shows us the timing in which we played them. All right. All right, so what I want to do is I want to quantize these by half notes. So I'm going to hit this AQ, which automatically quantizes, and I'm going to select half notes. All right, so now our kick drum. Right on. Cool. All right, so let's name this kick drum. I'll just call it kick for short. So now we're going to duplicate the track. I clicked with 2 fingers and I went down to duplicate track. All right, so let's name this snare. We're going to record the snare drum. All right, so I've renamed it snare drum. So now let's record the snare. All right. All right, so I've recorded by snare drum, so now I want to quantize them. All right, so again, I'm in this piano mode. I'm going to hit Command A, and I'm going to select Auto Quantize, and I'm going to go to quarter notes because we have our snare on beats 2 and 4. Okay. Cool. All right, so now we're going to duplicate this track again. Now we're going to call this hi-hat, or just hat for short. All right, now we're going to track out our hi-hat. All right, so we have our kick on beats 1 and 3, our snare on beat 2 and 4. All right, so now we're going to put our hi-hats at eighth notes. So this is where we can get into a little bit of music theory. All right, so we divide music into what we call measures. And so measures are just units that we use to measure music based on time. All right, so right now we have our song doing a 4-measure loop right here. All right, and the time signature, which is another important term that you learn in music, we can see the time signature right here at the bottom of our screen where it says timing. Our time signature is 4/4. So what this means is that we have 4 beats in a measure, the first 4, and our measure is divided into quarter notes. So with the hi-hat, we're doing eighth notes. So basically what that means is we're dividing that measure into 8 notes. All right. So I'll show you what that sounds like. We'll track it out. All right, so because of a little latency, we're going to have to quantize this one too. So let's turn on auto quantize and we'll select eighth notes. There we go. All right, so listen to those hi-hats. Right, so if we were to count to 4, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you could hear 8 hi-hats in each measure or in each grouping of 4. So the hi-hats go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is just a basic pattern. You can obviously program your drums with whatever kind of flair that you want. But I think this is just something to get us started in creating this beat. I think this is a cool pattern. I think we can do something with this, add a melody, add some bass line, add some chords, which we'll be doing in later videos. So that wraps up our video. We were able to create a drum beat. We got some sounds off of Splice, and we learned how to quantize and learn the difference between quarter notes and eighth notes. In the next video, we'll be creating a melody using some stock VSTs within Studio 1.5, which I think sound great. And after that, we'll be adding some chords and a bass line. Then we'll be mixing, arranging, and bouncing it out. But thank you guys for watching. See you in the next video.